history is our CV to tell people this is who we are, this is what we've done, and this is what we can do. Yeah. So you need to respect me. The obverse now is if you don't have that background, then people say, well, look at these people, they never achieved anything. Who are they? And it affects you on an individual basis, not on your psychology, but on the opportunities that are given to you, because people have this wholesale idea of who black people are.
Absolutely.
So this idea of race becomes prevalent. And the sad, that these generations now are born into this idea of race. It's just natural to think of race. It's just there.
Yeah.
It's always been there, right? Well, it hasn't, That's the thing,
No, it's been programmed.
That's the program, It's all about how you receive the information. Do you receive it as a threat? Do you receive it as something that can reconcile people?
Now, before we start this episode, I want to share something with you that's been sitting with me for a while. This podcast started as conversations, but it's grown into something much bigger than that. Because every week, the same thing keeps on showing up. Whether we're talking about faith, culture, masculinity, relationships, identity, or truth, that theme is that everything is upside down. So if you like to hear or see more conversations that flip the narrative, such as ours, and you'd like more guests and bigger guests to be on the show, then we need your support by kindly subscribing to our channel. Because there's truth in a lie, but never a lie in the truth. So please follow and subscribe. It would help us immensely. Thanks for your support, guys. History is more than dates. It's identity. It's dignity. It's memory. But what happens when entire chapters are forgotten or never told? Black Wall Street wasn't just a place. It was vision, enterprise, community, and loss. Today I'm joined by Khareem Jamal, historian, playwright, musician, and a man on a mission to tell stories that history almost erased. We're talking about purpose, legacy, faith, and whether art can restore what silence tried to bury. Because sometimes telling the truth isn't about anger. It's about healing. Khareem.
Morning. How you doing, brother?
Very well, man, and thank you for joining me today.
Welcome, man.
When did you realize that you were called to tell untold stories?
That's a great question. When did I realize? The genesis, I know it starts with, we were talking about this yesterday, about the spirit of inquiry, That's the title of my new book.
Okay.
The Spirit of Inquiry. And it's that inquiring spirit where you just realize things are upside down. You don't mind stealing your
No, of course not.
You know what I'm saying? When you realize that things that are presented to you, the narratives that you're given, don't make any sense. It don't make sense. So it starts there with the investigation, isn't it? And I think you have to have a certain sort of boldness to challenge accepted narratives, because they're firmly established by people who are renowned and, respected and that kind of thing, with letters after their name. So how dare anyone challenge what's written? I think that's one of the ways that powers establish, because power shapes narratives before narrative, shapes the belief. So I heard you talking earlier on. You were talking about what's written down, that kind of thing, and what's presented to you. What in our school days, when we're very young and we're what they call, when we absorb things that young, we call it premature cognitive commitments, which is programming.
Premature cognitive commitments. I like that. Okay.
Yeah, it's premature. Obviously, everyone knows what that is.
Yeah.
And before you're ready.
Yeah.
And the cognitive, the whole thought process, and commitments, and things that you're committed to, become your belief systems and the things you stand on, usually for life. Because unlearning is very difficult.
Big time.
Unlearning is huge.
Yeah.
Because if you're devoted to something, and somebody comes up with this thing and you say, well, black is white and white is black, they're like, come on now, what are you talking about, bro? Yeah, I don't even want to hear that.
And I feel that's most of the world's problem today, is having to unlearn the lies that we've been all told.
100%.
It's not just a black thing.
100%.
It's
No.
it's a human thing,
Of course,
you
100%.
know.
But I didn't even know if I answered your question because you said when did I realize?
That you were called, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, obviously, I just did it because I could do it. You know what I mean? Then afterwards, you realize,
You
this
felt
is this.
something in you, like a passion or a
Oh,
desire.
always, and you can't always put the pieces together until maybe later on down when you have wisdom.
Yeah,
You say, okay,
yeah,
this is a calling.
yeah, absolutely. So I mean, regarding your calling, I mean, I've been to several plays that you
Right?
have,
Yeah,
put together, produced, and I must say, and not just saying this because you're in front of me,
mm,
you're an excellent playwright.
I appreciate that, man.
You're a brilliant storyteller,
Thank you.
and I was educated when I came to see. I'm embarrassed to say that I can't remember the name
Probably,
of that play.
probably Voice of Black Folk. I think you
Voice
said.
of that's what it was called. What was it?
Voices of Black Folk.
Voices of Black
I
Folk.
think There's three series. There's three sort of episodes in that series. You got
Can you tell us, please? A
Voice
bit
of
more?
Black Folk is the original, and there was Black Voices in Britain before the Windrush,
Yeah.
and Black Voices in Unexpected Places. So what did we do there? We did obviously covered Britain because everyone thinks that this place is some Anglo-Saxon haven and always was.
Mm.
So I just thought, well, no, let me just show people that Black people have always been here. It's not, and that's what we covered in the Windrush series. So Black was in Britain before the Windrush.
That's right.
We didn't arrive here on the Windrush. We were always here. And I think that's a big shocker to some people. A lot of people.
Absolutely.
So it's just bringing up characters that they've never heard of, or may have heard of but didn't know were black.
Can you give me one or two now?
Yeah, I mean Alexander Sergeyevich Pushkin, who was the father of Russian literature. He's mixed heritage. On his father's side, I think, is from a man named Abraham Ganabal, who came from Africa, from Ethiopia.
Okay.
So yeah, I went to Russia as a gift to the Tsar as a young boy. Yeah. So
a gift,
this is his grandfather as a gift to the Tsar. So obviously it's like a toy for them, isn't it? A black man. It's just like it's novelty.
Yeah.
And because of his exceptional talents, this is not Pushkin. This is his great grandfather now, right? He rose through the ranks. He became a trusted confidant of the Tsar. Tsar made him a general, and because of that, obviously his status, was increased, and then it comes all the way down to Pushkin. Pushkin went to the best schools, learned, and gave Russia its literature. If you think about that, it's phenomenal.
That is phenomenal.
Absolutely.
So there are such things as Black Russian.
Well, yes,
so to speak,
if you like it. And if you look at Russia, because last night we had this question last night, because Russia, they have a lot of artifacts concerning, paintings and books and stuff concerning, the Bible story, and in fact, most of the Eastern European and even Central European representations of the Bible story are with people of color. That's what they have on their walls, in their museums, and so on. But people don't realize Russia had this relationship with Ethiopia, or Abyssinia as it was then, because a lot of the Russian Tsar's private guards came from Abyssinia. So the people that he surrounded with him as his personal guard,
right,
came from Ethiopia.
Imagine that.
Imagine.
And and this is stuff that you don't obviously get taught in schools, right?
You never get that.
And I was saying to you earlier on, before we started recording, that I remember days in my school where I was led to just believe that Black history began at slavery.
Yeah.
Which we know is not true. But when you're told it in that narrative, you kind of see yourself almost in the same. And this leads me now to asking you this next question.
Yeah.
Why do you believe history matters in shaping in identity?
Why do I think it matters?
Obvious. I know it's obvious.
Well, I mean, it's your basis of your identity, isn't it? It's where you belong, where you come from. And okay, if you think of history as a CV. When you send your CV off for a job, you're telling them basically some stories about your qualifications, who you are, a little bit background, some of your qualities and attributes and that type
Yeah.
of thing, and your experience.
Yeah.
That qualifies you, doesn't it?
Well, you like to hope it does.
Well,
Yeah.
it qualifies you for an invite to an interview, hopefully.
Mm.
Then you get there, and then you have the person. This is you now in person,
An opportunity
not on
now
paper.
to.
Now you can sell yourself. Okay. Well, if you think about a people and their CV is their history. Okay. So if you have no history on your CV,
Yeah.
who are you?
Who are you?
What respect do you get? You see?
Yeah.
So history is our CV to tell people this is who we are, this is what we've done, and this is what we can do. Yeah. So you need to respect me. The obverse now is if you don't have that background, and people will say, well, look at these people, they never achieved anything. Who are they, And it affects you on an individual basis, not only your psychology, but on the opportunities that are given to you because people have this wholesale idea of who black people are.
Absolutely. And it goes without saying we've seen remnants of that all around the world, where we're stereotyped just because of the color of our skin, even before we open our mouth or do anything.
Of course, it's quite deep because I shared this last night on the teach, and I told folks, and I've told it before. I don't know if you've ever heard, but when my dad came to this country, and he was invited to dinner by some friends at work because at the time he didn't have friends here because when they came here, that sort of Windrush generation, they had to establish themselves. So they invited him for dinner. He went, and it was some friendly white folks at his workplace, and I don't even know how to quite put this, but when he went to sit down, they bought some extra cushions for him, but he said, well, that's not really necessary. The settee's comfortable enough, and they said, but we don't want you to hurt your tail. I know you look incredulous. That's how I felt. So they thought genuinely that black people had tails because that was the tales they were told, growing up from their grandfather, their father, handed down from one generation to another.
That we're like animals.
That we're, basically as close to the animals and not quite evolved.
Wow.
And that's us Africans have tails. And they believed it, you see. So they were being genuine in their concern for his tail.
I'd like to know how your dad did he explain to you how he dealt with
I
that?
can't remember what he said to me, about that. But I just looked at him and I thought, is this a real story, Dad? I mean, what?
Yeah. But these are the things that our, people say forefathers, our grandparents,
Yeah.
and maybe even close as some of our parents, such as yours,
it's not,
that had to.
It depends where you go. You go in some rural parts of this country, you might get some of those ideas still exist.
That are still,
you know what I mean? Yeah, still prevalent.
Yeah, still prevalent. Mm. Do you think storytelling is a form of justice?
It can be. It should be.
How do you see your narrations when you're putting it to the public?
I think we're looking to justify ourselves. Number one, what I mean by that. I mean this is who we are. This is not who you thought we are. And this is what we've done. So we're going back to that whole CV thing again, if you like, And I think it can be justice because, well, it is, because people have a false idea of who you are. So I have to set the record straight, and show you who I really am, or who we are, who we were, and so on, So I think, and especially if you feel there's an onus upon you to use it for that means, if you get me.
Yeah, I do, totally.
So I think there's a responsibility for, if I'm making a film or writing a play, the screenplay or the script, it has to be meaningful. It can't be just any frivolous nonsense. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I mean, if you don't tell your story, I'm saying in hypothetical, in quotation marks, someone else will.
And they do.
And they do.
Yeah, and that's the story we run with.
Yeah.
So extending that, things like Hollywood and so on, that's what they're set up to do, is to tell stories, but also to educate or miseducate, should we say, to give you a false impression of the truth.
Of the truth, yeah, exactly. That's why I've always said on my book cover, my subheading, if you can see it there, there's truth in a lie.
Of course.
But never a lie and the truth.
Well, the devil doesn't just tell lies.
No, he doesn't.
he
He uses
he uses the truth.
He uses truth,
And he mingles it with lies.
and this is how he's deceived the world, most of the world
Of
today.
course, absolutely.
You know, you won't. If you eat that, you'll be just like God.
Of course.
You won't die.
Yeah.
Wow.
And the flesh likes to hear that, right?
And the flesh love to hear that.
Yeah.
I could be like God.
Be like
Oh.
God. Yeah, come on.
I mean, we can be like God,
Mhm.
but how
Mhm.
was the telling point. For those of us who are unfamiliar with what Black Wall Street is,
Oh, yeah.
could you elaborate and give us a bit more
Yeah,
clarity, please?
sure. It's a great story in one sense and tragic in another. To set the background for it, really, this really begins in the 1830s, or in 1830. I think the president of America was a man named Andrew Jackson, a known racist, a slave owner, and so on. And how can we put this? Okay, in many of the Native American tribes, the Choctaw, the Cree, the Chickasaw, the Cherokees, and the Seminoles, in particular, those 5 tribes, mostly around the southeast, in the Florida, Alabama, Tennessee, Mississippi area.
Right.
Okay, proliferated in that area, but they also had many runaways amongst their community, so black folks in there, because from time immemorial, people used to run from North Carolina, South Carolina, Virginia, and those states, the slaveholding states, and go into Florida, amongst the swamps, amongst the Seminole Indians and that kind of thing.
To kind of escape? Or...
Yeah, to stay on, for refuge, because Florida wasn't what it is today.
Right.
That's Walt Disney made it up and built it up, reclaimed land from the sea and the water and the swamps. Florida still has swamps and Everglades and stuff.
Yeah. There's a lot of was it archipelagos, or is that what you called it?
Archipelago.
Archipelagos. Yeah. Sorry.
So there's lots of swamps there, and even more in those days. But and that's why when the slaves ran away to those areas, no one would follow them into those areas, because they're afraid of crocodile, alligators, and snakes, and the Seminole natives who lived there but know every inch of the territory.
Right. Yeah.
And they received many of the runaways into their communities, and so you had this intermingling amongst them and that kind of thing. Okay, same with the Crees and Creeks, native tribes, but they also owned. With the Crees and the Creeks, I really need to have a whole lesson to do with this, but they used to, the Crees and the Creeks wanted to imitate what white society was doing, so they would own slaves,
even though they were of the same color, so to speak.
Indeed, or or in the same situation, pretty much.
Same situation.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Because the Europeans wanted to exterminate the Native Americans anyway, but they thought the best way to appease or to be assimilated into the society was to mimic the things that the society was doing. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so show ourselves to be Anyway, now I'm saying that all that to say this. So there came a time when the American government issued what they called it became known as the Trail of Tears. So basically, what it was, the relocation of all those tribes I've mentioned from their territories, their homelands, into Oklahoma, which is probably about 1,500 miles away from there. Okay. And that Trail of Tears went over about a few years, because you can imagine people on horseback, thousands, tens of thousands of people being taken by the American Army, U.S. Army, from the southeast of America over to the southwest.
Yeah.
In Oklahoma. And along that way, many thousands died, starvation, disease, and so on, the usual thing.
No different to the transatlantic.
Well, yeah, a sort of miniature.
A mini one.
Yeah, and when they got there, so you have these communities of Native Americans and blacks there in a state called the Indian Territory. That's what Oklahoma was called before it became Oklahoma. You see, and they just dumped all these folks there because they want to contain them, in that area. So there you have a mixture there of Native Americans and Black Americans.
So gentrification was happening from what then?
It's always in it. This segregation, is an upgrade from gentrification. This is segregation, pure and simple. Why we think, what are we going to do with these folks? We don't want them in, because we want the land that they had.
Yeah. Sorry, gentrification. I used the wrong word, isn't it? Because that means when you're kind of
developing the place, and the gentrification is developing the area.
Developing the area
for the And that was going on because they wanted the land that the Native Americans won for
Right.
European settlers coming in,
Right.
because they were encouraging more Europeans to come because they wanted to populate America, you see.
Got you.
Yeah. So they want that land, and they put them in Oklahoma, which I thought was this barren place, with nothing there, pretty much a dust bowl, and just put them there. So having put there and be able to have to fend for themselves, all these Native Americans and these blacks built up their own little townships, their own communities
Right.
to be self-sufficient.
So pharmacists.
Well, not yet.
No.
Not yet. I mean, first they're building their towns. We're looking, how can we survive here? Farming, all that kind of thing was obviously the main thing. Agriculture would be the first thing. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And then from sort of 1880s upwards, you have a man. Oh gosh, forgetting the names. I'll come back to you in a minute. But they had this entrepreneurial vision. People coming in because people are coming from other parts of America now. Yeah, thinking there might be opportunity for us in this place
Right.
if we can build something.
I was going to say to build or to take some of these slaves.
No, I'm talking about blacks now.
Right, blacks.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm talking about black people.
They
coming
saw
in
the
there.
opportunities.
Yeah, opportunity.
Okay.
Maybe let's see if we can build something here. And these were people that were educated, highly educated. I mean, that's coming into this space now.
Okay.
With ideas.
Okay.
Some of them had positions in government. High positions too. Because after slavery, in the Reconstruction period, what they call this sort of golden era, it didn't last very long, about 10 years, where black people were able to get education, were able to get good employment, were given opportunities to excel and exceed.
Right.
You see, so you had some people with vision coming into that area.
Yeah, some innovators.
Yeah, absolutely. And a town called Greenwood was established. Greenwood. This is going to be later on with Black Wall Street. So Greenwood became a sort of what do I call it? It's part of Tulsa, Oklahoma.
Okay.
The city is Tulsa, and that would be like a suburb of
you.
Tulsa. Yeah.
Okay.
So you have this all black township there, and on the periphery you would have white people coming in there now, because now guess what? That land that they put them in had oil. God is amazing.
Yeah.
So this land they dumped them on, thinking there's nothing there. You just put them there. Actually, all of a sudden you see Native Americans become landowners with oil under the land that they lived on, and same with some blacks as well, but mostly with the Native Americans because they were more populous. There's a movie called Killers of the Flower Moon. Have you not seen it? Great movie.
I don't think I have.
Yes, it's about 3 or 4 years old.
Killers of the
Flower Moon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like I've heard of it.
Yeah, you should
Can't
do.
say I've-
Yeah, wonderful movie. Escape me the actors in it now, but I'll come back to it. Robert De Niro's in it, I think. Yeah,
Okay.
De Niro and a few others.
And what's it pretty much about? It's based on this.
Yes, it's aspect of that story, not the black side of the story, but what they did to the Native Americans who owned this land full of oil.
Okay.
'Cause once they discovered the oil was there, of course, everyone's thinking, well, we have to get this land back.
As they do.
Yeah. How can we do this? Because we signed it over to them. Well, what you had then is a lot of the Caucasian white men would marry the Native American women.
Right. Was this a strategy?
Strategy.
Oh gosh, let me hear this.
Strategy. And basically they would, poison them. They sometimes just downright kill them. And of course, where's the justice in there? Because no one's gonna,
Yeah.
no one's gonna.
Who cares?
Who cares? And what them obviously as husband, then they will be inheritors of the land. You see, so this is how they appropriated the land for these little subterfuge and trickery and wiles, as the Bible says. I mean, you couldn't write it. It's just incredible.
Couldn't.
Yeah, and now Greenwood becoming this all black suburb of Tulsa, where people there are now becoming highly educated through the vision of two men in particular whose names escape me for me. I don't know why, but I'll come back to them in a minute. Now you have professionals being developed there. In that town, you have everything that you would see anywhere else, in any town.
It's thriving now.
Yeah, if you go to the Northeast, or you go into New York, or you go to whatever,
Yeah.
you see what you have then is a smaller version of that now, but it's all black. banks, churches, schools, everything.
Yeah.
Everything's there, all self-sufficient.
Shops.
So then here's the paradox now, because they wanted to segregate them. They did that. But now, with these white townships around in Tulsa, they're looking over into Greenwood and seeing this thriving black community living better than them. So now envy becomes the thing. Jealousy and envy now rises up amongst the white folks.
Absolutely.
So this is what leads ultimately to the demise of Greenwood, with the trumped up nonsense about, the young black man who tried to attack a young white lady in a lift in a public building in the middle of the day. It's nonsense. She didn't even press charges. It was there were witnesses there. One of them took it upon himself to say that he tried to, attack her and rape her and that kind of thing. Anyway, long story short, that was the premise for what occurred after that. We're talking about 1921.
Wow.
1921, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So, do you want me to continue with this?
Yeah, please.
Yeah. So 1921, and
Because I'm trying to actually, sorry to interrupt you there, but before you continue, I'm trying to piece together the story as a timeline for me
sure.
from the
So we started 1830.
so the abolition of slavery took place.
Well, not yet.
Not yet.
No, because abolition of slavery would take place in 1863.
Right.
1864, over those 2 years. Okay. Well, 1865 was when it officially was done, because it's in different stages. You see.
Yeah.
It would take me long to go through it here.
But look
now,
how long it still continued, even though.
Oh yeah.
Abraham
sure.
Lincoln.
Yeah. Lincoln done it in
put the Emancipation or whatever.
Proclamation. Yeah.
Proclamation.
Yeah. And he was reluctant to do that. By the way, he didn't want to. Yeah, he didn't want to do that. No. One of my chapters in my book is The Trouble with Saints. Okay. It talks about Abraham Lincoln and this.
And I held that man very high.
Everyone does, because they don't know the whole story. I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying he shouldn't.
He's still done great things.
Yeah, whether he wanted to or not. Yeah. But his perfect thing would have been, if I could save the Union without freeing the slaves, I would. So North and South, with secession.
Yeah.
The South saying, actually, we're going to break away from the North. We're going to form our own government. Of course, that was the cause of the American Civil War in 1861. So Lincoln was more concerned with preserving the union of North and South, the entire America, than he was with freeing any slaves. So it wasn't a moral, ethical exercise for him. Right. It was a prudent and practical one. Yeah, and I think so. People, give him a lot of credit, and he deserves some, but I think they don't know the full story of that.
Well, that's why, listening to you now, it's an important reminder how important it is for us to research and read our own, look it up for ourselves, because...
Yeah, one of the chapters in my book is called "Take Nobody's Word for It."
what a great title.
Yeah. Well, I actually stole that from the Royal Academy of Sciences, because they got on that. That's their motto, isn't it?
Take nobody's word.
Take nobody's word for it.
That is so true. Check it out for yourself.
Yeah, check it for yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So why? How comes you actually focused on Dreamland specifically, and not any other story?
Well,
the American.
I tell all this. I mean, there's so many stories I want to tell, David. You know what I mean?
Bet.
So.
And I hope that you do get to.
Oh, I'm doing it. I mean, Black Wall Street. I mean, I've just written. Well, we just did a little pilot thing we called Africanus Rex, which is a story of Septimius Severus and Clodius Albinus and Pescennius Niger, 3 Black Romans.
These are Black Romans.
Black Romans, yeah, who fought each other to be emperor. The winner being Septimius Severus. I mean, these are great stories, because everyone, when you think of Rome, they think of this is just Caucasians. Yeah, it's crazy, So those kind of stories that people don't know, that might surprise and have the element of shock, if you like, about them. Absolutely. So there's so many that I want to tell.
And what emotions did you feel writing it?
Lots of everything. It's a great question, actually, because you can't. if you engage in something like this without feeling emotion or being emotional,
Can't really convey.
you can't. You know, I don't think. Then it just becomes a exercise in, here's a project and it's a good project. Let me work on that project and get it done, and then move on to the next one. No, but you have to invest yourself in it.
Absolutely.
Do you know what I mean? And so yeah, emotion. Yeah, a lot of emotion. 100%.
Anger, hate,
I think I learned the anger. No hate. No,
hope.
always hope. Always hope. That's where we come from. We have
Exactly.
that hope, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So there's always that. But it's just I think I'm incredulous at how human behavior is something that the psychology of human behavior just it doesn't shock me, but it disappoints me. You know what I mean? The lengths people will go to develop themselves or to improve their situation at the expense of another man. Do you know?
Yeah. And not just another man, another man's dignity and demise.
Yeah, but the whole caboodle, yeah.
You know?
Yeah. So there's always that emotional investment in that. And when you read the stories and you hear the testimonies and, excuse me, yeah, people from that time speak about the incidents and stuff, it transports you back to that time. So it becomes almost like a lived experience, although you're not living it.
Yeah, yeah. And I guess in a way, you have to be careful as a writer that you're not trying to create or incite
Yes,
hate,
I know.
right?
Yeah.
Because when I was younger, I told myself that I didn't want to watch movies like Roots, and
Okay.
I've seen them,
Yes.
but there was a period when I said I don't want to see it.
Because of the anger aspect.
I knew what it was going to do to me,
Mm.
and lo and behold, it actually did it.
Yeah.
I watched Roots, and what other programs did I watch? So many things. Mississippi Burning.
Oh yeah. That's
Yeah, that one. One that touched me, I think, school days was To Kill a Mockingbird.
oh yeah.
You read
Gregory
the book,
Peck,
and
Gregory Peck,
Gregory
and so
Peck, brilliant book and brilliant movie.
Yeah.
And yeah, A Time to Kill. All
Oh
of
yeah.
these great stories were messages, but
Mm.
it actually fueled a little bit of
Oh yeah, it's natural.
naturally, right?
It's natural.
And I'd go to school the next day and want to tell a white boy about himself,
I think.
But obviously I've matured since that point,
Yeah, of course.
and
Yeah.
realize,
I think what that experience you just mentioned is something that's replicated all over
the world.
where they saw that series.
Yeah,
Roots in particular.
yeah.
Everyone says, "I want to go to school the next day," and
Beat them up,
do
fight.
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's what you expressed there is something that was very commonly felt amongst people.
What do you hope audiences walk away from your shows understanding?
Always educated, learning, motivated,
Primarily, that's the
learn more.
educate.
Yeah, use the spirit of inquiry.
I think that's so important.
Yeah, that's what it's all about. And to reconcile himself with I mean, because if you look at what we receive as information, whatever source it's from, in this modern era, is designed to control our thinking. Edward Bernays, who's the father of modern propaganda, 1920s, said that that the people thinking in a democracy must be controlled. Well, that's kind of an oxymoron. If you're a democracy and you're controlling thinking, how's a democracy? But you get what he's saying.
Yeah.
And he put that out there, and you can see that governments, of course, have taken that up, and from that point, I think the flow of information has always been about control, controlling people's thinking, what they think, how they think.
And 9 out of 10 times, that's because I guess you want people to live a certain way, or
Yeah, exactly.
but is that certain way? Do you think is there a wrong or right in how these people are thinking? I want you to live like this.
Definitely wrong, because the whole idea is it's elitism. It's for a set group of people.
Yeah.
So the struggle is not race; it's class. Ultimately, that's what it comes down to. What the elites do is control the thinking of the masses, even those that look like them, because then once you got this race thing going on, it leaves you free to do what you want to do.
Yeah, yeah,
See, a lot of people don't do that. You don't realize they focus on race.
yeah. It's like an illusion, though, isn't
It
it?
is. It's well, there's no races.
Yeah,
There are no races. And again, the book we cover that.
yeah.
We call it the insidious concept of race. You know, so there's no races, but they got people focused on races and racism when the real war is classism.
That is the real.
That's the real war.
Yeah,
Because who's at the top
yeah,
and why and how?
yeah.
They use the masses to maneuver society how they want it by setting people off against each other.
It's deep, isn't it?
Yeah.
Khareem, how does your faith in Jesus influence your storytelling?
Jesus says, I am the truth
The way
and the light.
and the life. So, do you somehow try to interject
Yes.
the identity of Christ in your
Yeah,
narrative
you'll
as
find
well?
it's a great question. In my narrative, you'll always find some scriptures just embedded in there.
Give me some, please.
Oh gosh, you give me that.
I'll put you
No,
right. Put you right on the spot.
Man, I can't even think about some of the scripts. I mean, so many scripts. I'll think about something in a minute. But
Reason why I'm asking you that, just so you can ponder for a moment,
mm,
is because every time I have a guest on here and I speak about
yeah,
racism or sexism or
and
you know,
ism.
yeah, any ism schism,
Mm.
I always like to point out the fact that Jesus came to teach us that there's no gender, there's no race, there's no male, female in him,
Mhm.
but oneness,
Mhm.
and that we must all think on one accord, because of course the Bible says, a house that is divided can't stand.
Yeah.
And if we compare the house to our bodies as a house that hosts God,
Mm.
if it's not in accordance with its oneness, then we end up, I guess, becoming double-minded. We have different types of personality traits because we're not standing on the one truth. When you're telling your stories based on history, how do you align that oneness that you have come to recognize in Christ in telling the audience person that whilst you want them to identify or have knowledge of their identity,
Mm.
how do we cross that over with the identity in Christ as well?
Yeah, that's.
I hope I'm making sense.
Yeah. Totally. Yeah. I mean, I knew where you were going with that. Yeah, so, I mean, the storytelling, you look for opportunities to embed scripture or principles.
Yeah.
You know,
I think I
in the
recall
Bible.
that from some
Yeah.
of your,
Yeah. You look at a conversation between two characters might be, and there may be a situation where, things look dire, let's say, and then you can invoke scripture that gives them hope or brings hope, or that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Or even just light-hearted moments where where you're showing the positivity of a character, and then he reveals to you, well, the reason he's positive is because of his belief in Christ. So
Right.
it might not even be there in the original. So in other words, if I'm reinventing characters, I don't necessarily have their words. I may have snippets of some things they said,
Okay.
but from that I may have to garner things about their personality from that. But then I may give them some personality traits that aren't necessarily present or obvious from what conversations we have of there. Because remember, it's history, isn't it? So,
Yes, yeah,
and we don't
exactly.
always have these great big narratives, or long things that they have said or done.
Yeah. So do you reckon there's a thin line between art and evangelism? Well, what I'm trying to say here is history is history. What's done has been done.
Mm.
Now I've got a responsibility to convey that into my art, but I might display it how I want to display it.
Well, yes, a lot of people compromise that.
You know?
I don't know what they say they're men or women of faith, but then they'll be doing something, in their public lives or in their in their careers, which contradicts
That's
that.
the question. Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't. There's no compromise for me. I can't. You know, I can't be one
deviate from the
thing
truth.
there and one thing there. I've got to be the same all the way through. You know, what I mean, I've got to be consistent
Absolutely.
with that. You know. So yeah. But
Absolutely.
I mean, your question there, I think, was more nuanced, isn't it? What were you? There was a. Do you want to repeat that question if you can remember? What it
So I
was?
was more or less asking whether or not if there's tension between art and evangelism.
Not for me.
Not for you.
No, I could see there might be for others, for
yeah.
others. Not for me, because to me, one is the vessel for the other.
Mm.
You understand? You get me?
Yeah, absolutely. So in a way, you're using theatre almost as a ministry.
It's a ministry and a teaching. That's what it is. Because whatever I put in a book or whatever I speak in a class is one thing, but if I can bring it to life on a stage, it's another means of telling the story, isn't it?
Absolutely.
People, everyone loves pictures, right?
Yeah.
So everyone loves words,
Yeah.
unfortunately, or not words that they have to read.
Yeah.
They might like words that they hear,
But
or
they can
audible,
hear,
yeah,
for sure.
and they can see. So yeah,
For sure. And
I just think it's a great opportunity to teach, and if you have the ability to, you know, thank God you give me the gifts that I can bring music and theatre and words together to tell stories.
yeah, absolutely. And I think you do it so wonderfully because it's not even in a way where it comes across preachy.
No.
You know, how do you find yourself? Do you meticulously think about not doing that as opposed to doing it?
Well, I think there's a bit of both things because, first of all, it doesn't come to mind, to write some of the things that other people write. It's not even in me to do that. But then if I'm doing something and I think, well, I could express it this way or might express it this way, I think, well, yeah, that way, no, I don't like that sound of that one. Let me keep on this side of the fence. Do you know what I mean? So it's a bit of both, isn't it? So things that are not in you can't come out of you. It's not the things that you eat that defile you. It's the things that come out of you that defile you. Okay.
True.
Right. So, and so we have to be careful with that. But then once you're properly aligned, it becomes who you are. So it's natural process.
Absolutely. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, because art can preach without sounding like a sermon, for sure.
Yeah.
And I think most things that we see today are a form of art and expression.
Well, someone is preaching something to you through their art, subliminally.
So say, like, give me an example. Like,
No, I mean, you might watch a movie that's got a message on it, but on the face of it, doesn't look as if it's carrying that message, but subliminally, it's giving you a message.
Absolutely.
And that's what people use movies for.
Yeah.
You know.
I like to liken it to I think the greatest storytellers. Please don't feel no offense, any creatives out there, but I think a lot of my favorite storytellers are musicians.
Okay. Yeah.
When I listen to music,
that makes sense.
I can hear the expressions come through their choice of words, the songs that they write, and even the tone of a song can demonstrate some type of ministry.
Yeah, come on. I mean, the Psalms are songs.
Psalms are songs.
you know. If you look at some of the Psalms, it says at the beginning, it says to be played with. Tell you what instruments are playing these Psalms. They'll accompany the words of this song.
Right.
This instrument.
Right.
And not every psalm is using the same instrument.
Yeah.
So that obviously is very clever. They're obviously thinking, well, this instrument will align better with this message. Because music is frequency.
Hey, now we're talking.
That's why Satan is the prince of the air.
Prince of the air. Because he understands frequencies.
And that's what his job was, isn't it? So, when you put these things together, you understand, you get a full understanding of how they work.
This is deep and how we're going to get into the next segment of our conversation now, because speaking about music, frequencies, self-expression, how do you balance cultural identity with kingdom identity?
Yes, great one, because this is something that prevents a lot of, particularly younger people, I think, from coming to Christ.
Absolutely.
Because they automatically mention that Jesus, and if you mention his name, they think, oh, that white man. And they automatically think of Christianity as the enslavers of black people during the slave trade. And I can understand why, but then sometimes just to refute these things, you have to just apply some simple logic. First of all, my first thing to people would say, how can you, the question you asked me, well, my question to them is, where does the Bible story take place geographically? Especially when going from the Old Testament and be, okay? That makes them think, first of all, because they don't know what to say. Most people don't, are not au fait with geography. The average man, can't see in his mind's eye the map of the world.
No.
I can do that. I can see it, and that makes me be able to. And many people can do that, of course. Be, create relationships or see relationships between people from different places. Therefore, you see possibilities of things, and then you see impossibilities of certain things.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. So, what am I saying? I'm saying, how do I equate that with the two things? Is natural. Bible is history, isn't it? And I'm a historian.
Absolutely.
And it just depends on how I tell the story, because I see it differently from maybe many people see it.
Exactly.
Because to me, that's the story that we've always been in. When they talk about things like looking for black folks in the Bible, I'm thinking, what are you talking about? I'm looking for others.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's my perspective. I'm looking for other folks in there. When did they come in?
I like that.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So my starting point is completely different.
Yeah, absolutely.
From other people when they talk about a story. Because when I look at, going back to the point of geography, Egypt and Israel are neighbors. People in the Bible, we constantly see people walking from one to the other.
Yeah.
Always.
Yeah.
We constantly seeing people, Israelites, hiding amongst Egyptians. Now, the idea or the perspective or the reason for hiding is to conceal yourself. How can you conceal yourself among a people that look different from you? You'd be easy to spot, right?
That's a really good point.
So
Never
these
looked at it
things,
like that at all.
yeah. I mean, people often point out the thing of Moses. Moses married the Cushite woman, the Ethiopian. They say, oh, he was Miriam and Aaron were vexed with him because he married a black woman. That's a load of nonsense. She wasn't a Hebrew.
You're saying the other way around.
Well, no, I'm saying that it's all black people, people of color. It's not the color that's the problem.
No.
It's what she believed in that was a problem. I mean, these are Israelites. So the God of Israel, Yahweh,
Yeah.
Jehovah.
Yeah.
If you don't believe in that, you're an outsider, then that is bringing you into the fold like that.
Yeah.
Come on. That's a no-go.
Yeah.
And don't get me wrong, over time, many different, communities came into Israel and they believe in Christ, because it wasn't always just Hebrews. Many different Canaanite tribes and so on became part of that nation. But that's why Miriam and Aaron were angry with Moses. Nothing to do with race.
Okay. So you think that there's a danger in idolizing history because of this?
Great. Expand on that for me.
Well, when I say a danger in idolizing history, a lot of people like to look back on, where things begun, where the lies happened, where the truth actually is, and I guess.
We mean our focus is
yeah,
okay,
focusing on who black people were.
Right.
I'm saying, is there a danger?
It's a danger if you don't apply it correctly. It's the application, isn't it? Application of all knowledge is wisdom.
Absolutely.
So how do we use that? What is it for? Why are we looking back there? Well, someone's told a lie about us. I have to correct. Don't say I mean we have to set the record straight. It doesn't mean I'm glorying in the past or I'm living in there.
Right.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it can give me a solid footing foundation from which I can relaunch myself in the present.
Okay. Because I always compare looking back almost to the story of Lot and his wife.
Oh yeah.
And no, because sometimes when that pillar of salt description for me is literally a statue. And as we know, statues can't move. They can't speak. They can't think.
So you're saying looking back?
Looking back, sometimes, and a lot of people might beg to differ on my thought process here, but looking back doesn't allow you to go forward. So in a way, you do end up being stuck. And I find that a lot of particularly my peers in the black circle, when they talk about history,
Mm. I know where you're going.
I look at them sometimes. I'm like, you're stuck. You need to move
Mhm.
past.
It's the application of it. You see, that's what it is.
Yeah,
Because history is not dead; it's present.
right.
History is your roadmap to where you are now.
History's not dead; it's present.
Yes,
I
it's
like
alive
that. Okay.
because it's your roadmap to your present. This is the road I come from
Okay.
to where I am now. So my journey, I want to know my journey. I'm not going back in time. Yeah,
Mm.
but I'm learning my steps. If somehow that journey becomes disjointed by lies other people have told about me, yeah, then I don't have a picture of where I've come from and who I am.
I get that totally.
Yeah, and I use that simply as impetus to project me with confidence.
Mm.
Confidence is a fantastic thing to have, you know.
Absolutely.
Because no one is actually born with confidence.
It's something that you
You,
earn or
you
you
develop,
develop.
yeah, but it can be stolen, and it's been stolen from many people.
Many people.
Yeah.
It really has. Do you think though, like how everything has a cause and effect, a reason for happening? Do you think, as a nation of people, some point in our history, we became a bit lofty, and God maybe had to humble us?
Yeah.
I'm saying this
Yeah,
because,
no, I like it. I love it.
yeah,
I like what
because the
you're
stories that I've read in relation to the Israelites
saying. Mm-hmm.
being rebellious
Mm-hmm.
and not listening to God, and
Mm-hmm.
therefore God
Yeah.
putting them into the hands of their
Yeah. Yeah.
captives.
Yeah.
Yeah, and this happened time and time and time
Time
again.
and time and time again.
You know,
Yeah.
if it weren't the Egyptians,
Stiff neck, rebellious.
stickness rebellious,
Mm.
and if it weren't the, like I said, if it weren't the Egyptians, Babylonians. If it weren't
Assyrians.
Syrians,
Mm-hmm.
Persians,
Mm. Seleucid Greeks. Yeah.
Greeks too.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Seleucids. Yeah. So
Seleucid Greek.
that's the remnant of Alexander.
So he put them into the hands of so many different world leaders and
Mm-hmm.
dominants.
Yeah. It's a
During
good.
the course of history and
Yeah.
time, and I'm like, I see ourselves very much like them,
Mm-hmm.
right? And I wonder if not a black folk, not many black folk might think along the same ideology as I've pointed out here, but history has shown me
Mm-hmm.
that we should humble ourselves rather
Yeah.
as opposed to divide. But
Yeah.
a lot of men look at history and
Yeah, they
cause
become
more division,
prideful. Yeah, become prideful. Yeah, I think.
become
Yeah,
prideful.
yeah, yeah. No, it's a danger there because.
What do you say in that?
You know, I'm with you
Mm.
because if we think about things, and this is not this is no, it's nothing against anybody else, any other nation, any other people. At, at one point in this whole Earth story,
Mm.
there are only people of color.
Yeah,
Well,
according to you.
according to me,
Someone else might say,
yeah.
no,
Okay, well, because I can, we can produce enough
you can
evidence
bring
for
out
that.
facts.
Yeah, facts. I mean, we produce everything that there is, every type of man known on the face of the earth come out of a black woman.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So at one point, there's only us. So then you have to say, well, hold on a minute. Why are we so proud of all of this stuff? So all of these wicked things. Some whether or not we were the perpetrators of those things,
Yeah,
which is what you were really saying.
that's what. Yeah,
Yeah, and I have to agree with that. So I think definitely if we go biblical, then after the flood, the first great man on the earth is Nimrod.
correct.
Was Nimrod, Tower of Babel, Babylon. Yeah, which is a sign of rebelliousness.
Absolutely.
And that kind of thing. So Babylon becomes that image of rebelliousness, and there we have Nimrod, who's a black man in the line of Cush. Yeah.
Yes.
So we can use biblical history, we can use history, whichever one you want to look at, and say that the point you made is well made.
It's deep, man, because like I said, I feel like there's so much division still. We know there is. Just look at football the other day.
Mm.
Um,
Yes.
yeah, time and time and time again. we're having to call out
Yeah,
and stand up.
It's crazy. Isn't it?
I like the fact that we have made that, if to say any difference,
There's been progress, I think, of some
we
kind.
made that little progress by saying,
However, I think I'm going to
however-
interject from what
no,
you
that's
said.
fine, because
Um,
you're probably going to say what I'm
yeah,
trying to say.
In the 80s, they had this thing: let's kick football, racism out of football.
Yeah.
Now I thought to myself, what a stupid slogan. I mean, the intent is good, but you can't kick it out of football if you let's kick it out of society.
Correct. It's in the world.
What are you talking about? So all that money they put into, ejecting people from stadiums and stuff. Well, my reasoning is if you educate people, you won't have to eject them from stadiums.
Correct.
Because if you throw a racist out of a stadium, he's still going to be a racist when he goes to Tesco's down the road.
Correct. Or to the local cafe,
or when he goes in the car park and he sees a black man.
Yeah.
He's still a racist.
That's right.
You just it probably made him angry because I can't go and see my favorite football team anymore.
Right. That's exactly what you've done.
You done, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not saying we should keep them in there. Of course, they shouldn't be allowed to be, but I'm saying the focus is wrong.
Yeah.
The focus has to be educational. You can't just be in this compartmentalized thing, football, rugby over there, cricket there. What are you talking about?
Like the old saying, you have to address the root.
The root,
and not just the
cosmetics.
The cosmetics.
Yeah. So sticking plasters ain't no good.
Yeah.
We're gonna cure not the symptom. We're gonna cure the disease.
Yeah. And you put that so eloquently, better than I did. But that's exactly what I meant. And kicking out of an institution is just kicking out of an institution. What about the rest?
That's a moment thing, isn't it? A momentary thing.
Momentary thing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
but you're right. Racism is there, but until you get rid of race, this idea. I mean,
but it's idea, isn't it? Because as we said earlier on, there isn't racism, so to speak. Races. Sorry, there isn't races.
I mean, the idea. Obviously, this is a fairly modern invention. The 18th century, 17th, 18th century,
Absolutely.
and it only came about to justify slavery. That's all it is. So we have to reduce these people that were enslaving from human beings to less than human beings, so it doesn't look like a human crime. So the perpetrators don't look guilty of something ungodly.
Steep, man.
So we're not enslaving black people. What we're doing, we're helping them because they can't help themselves.
Yeah,
they're savages. Don't you see? They're running around. The old stuff. And so so this idea of race becomes prevalent, and the sad, is that these generations now are born into this idea of race. It's just natural, isn't it, to think of race? It's just there.
Yeah,
it's always been there, right?
Yeah.
Well, it hasn't. That's the thing.
No, it's been programmed.
Yeah, of course, it's a program.
And
it's like now this younger generation, they eat grapes without seeds. So as far as they're concerned, grapes never had seeds.
Grapes are seedless, which is crazy, isn't it?
Which is crazy, right?
Yeah. I remember them days when you had to,
see that. Or
yeah, man.
I used to swallow them. I mean,
sometimes, don't do no
don't
harm
to me.
Exactly.
In fact, most of the goodness is in the seed.
Correct.
The seed.
When God tells us about when He created everything in the beginning, everything had a seed in it.
Seed. Yeah.
So how are you eating fruits today with no seed?
Yeah.
Brilliant. And it's pretty much in a never kind of like in a parable.
Yes.
When we receive information, if the information ain't got no seed,
well, absolutely.
Then what kind of information is
that? You
that?
have to go back to the seed of the information. Go back to
the seed of the information.
Check its foundation and check its veracity.
Brilliant, my brother.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, bro.
What legacy are you trying to leave? Because one day you're no longer going to be here, and you've certainly left an undeniable.
Well, hopefully, you just want to make a difference in
mark
people,
already
for people, to come out of their malaise, come out of their stupor, wake up, and it's good for all people.
Open your eyes,
open your eyes, because this message had to be for all people. It's no point me preaching to the converted.
That's right.
We have to reach the people who see us as different, or see us as less than. I'll tell you, when I was one of the creators of a show called Black Heroes in the Hall of Fame, which was a phenomenal show ran from the 80s, 87 until we went all over America. We went Caribbean and so on and so forth, and up and down the UK. But I remember a show we did one time in Nottingham. Remember this theatre is, a theatre that normally has things like Cinderella and Shakespeare plays and that kind of thing. That's their clientele. But we come along with Black heroes and Hall of Fame in there. And even the manager who hired us there, for he was saying, "Well, no tickets have sold. What are you going to?" Me and my partner, Flip Fraser, one of the creators of the show,
Okay.
no longer with us now. Brothers.
Oh, he
gone.
passed.
Yeah, he's passed now.
Sorry.
Yeah. But it was a great visionary. But we went up to the theater, and we had about 2 days or 3 days before the show. Let's say we went on a Tuesday, and the first show was a Friday. So we said, "Well, where are you promoting the show?" To the theater. They were just using their patrons to come and see Shakespeare, Cinderella, Charles Dickens. So this
Right.
thing would have no people with them unless you really sold it to them and told them what's about. So of course we went to the Black community, went there 2-3 days, all the shows sold out, and there were some white people in the front row because they came to see the show. They didn't really know what it was, but they're patrons. You know what I mean? They got the name on the seat.
Right.
And they came there and they were watching the show. At the end of the show, two white women came to me in tears, and they said, "We didn't know.
We didn't know.
We didn't know." Because what was being revealed on stage, you probably don't know the show, is all of these great characters, Black characters from history, and the things that they've achieved. Scientists,
I feel like I've seen this show. Pele was in it.
Yeah. Have you seen it? Black Heroes and Hall of Fame.
I saw it.
Pele was in Muhammad Ali, all that. Yeah,
all of them.
yeah, all them characters.
Yeah.
But also not just those characters we expect, like sportsmen and musicians, but scientists.
Yeah, innovators. Of
all these kind of things.
technology
Yeah. Politicians, teachers, all these type of professions that normally associate with Black people. So they expect us to be great musicians.
Yeah.
And great sportsmen.
Sportsmen, yeah. But not great physicists.
Yeah, all that kind of stuff.
Mathematicians.
All of it. And we're just great at everything. We're in everything.
Yeah.
Yes. But two women came to me at the end, and they were literally tears in their eyes and said, "We didn't know." But they were elderly women. So they'd obviously grown up in an era where this was nowhere on the horizon, this type of information. Nowhere. It barely is now. But you can access it if you have a mind to. But they, just came for entertainment. But they got Entertainment Plus.
Yes. Entertainment Plus.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so so I was moved by what they said, and it made me see that they are victims too.
Right.
Of misinformation.
Right. And maybe at that moment, you might have realized as well what impact your work was going to have.
Yes,
not just on people, your people,
100%.
Black people.
Yeah.
Even those.
Yeah. In fact, I just talk about our people. I mean, I know years after, because the show ran for 25 years.
Yeah.
And on and off. And I had people who saw it when they were young come to me and say, "I am this person. This is my job now.
Yeah.
And the reason I got this job is because of the inspiration I received from that show."
Absolutely.
There's hundreds of testimonies I received like that. And that, wow, even I'm thinking about it now, makes me feel emotional.
Khareem, trust me. I'm looking at you and I'm like, obviously you can't read my thoughts right now.
Yeah, of course.
But I'm thinking, here you are in front of me now, and I'm, I've got this podcast, and I'm, having you on, and we're having a chat. Not knowing, Khareem, that, well, I know now, but not knowing that when I was a 14 or 15-year-old boy, I think I was at the time, watching this play, that you was one of the guys behind the setting of this. Yeah. It's amazing.
Yeah, we talk about that. I've got lots of people in our church now, which you obviously were a member of our church for many years.
Yeah.
Who said to me, they met me before I met them, but we didn't meet each other because we didn't know. We were in the same place at the same time many times, but because we didn't know, we walked past each other. Do you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
So, but now here we are converged in this one space where we know. Oh, so you.
So.
Yeah, exactly. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's beautiful. That,
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Yeah,
and I think I was saying to another guest as well that because God is the beginning and the end, the Alpha and the Omega, He knows every place, everything, when to set it up, when to hook it up.
Full knowledge.
Full knowledge.
Yeah.
Did you read yesterday in I don't know if you have the Bible but every day I get that message that would tell me, today's word is, and yesterday's word was quite fitting for today. It was I can't remember, Isaiah somewhere.
Okay.
God had foretold all of these things from long time ago.
Mhm.
So, yeah, you know that.
Mhm,
Remember
mhm.
that passage? And I feel like this is part of that as well. Yeah,
Well,
because
but you touch on a very talking belief now, talking God, foreknowledge, knowing everything from before it happens.
before it happens,
You know, and sometimes people don't understand this thing, because they think because people say things. So is God just wicked? He just chooses random people to cast into hell. You know, why is this person? The Bible says, Jacob I have loved, but Esau I have hated. So did God choose to hate Esau from the beginning before he's even born? No. With
Doesn't make
foreknowledge,
sense.
I can see
Yeah.
what they will be
Yeah.
before they even know what they will be. So
Yeah.
therefore, my judgment is already made
Yeah.
based on what I see before you know it.
Yeah.
So that foreknowledge is, you have to understand that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because there's this thing with people who trying to understand God's foreknowledge and the reason behind the things that He does and why He does the things that He does and so on and so forth.
Yeah.
Because to them it looks like random choice of people. I'm going to get David and I'm going to cast David into hell because he's wicked.
Never
No,
random.
I knew David was whatever before he knew it. You know what I mean? When you say, I know the plans I have for you in Jeremiah, yeah?
Yes, thank you. Yes.
Why does he know the plans I have for you? Because I've seen you. You chose to come. Everything about choice, isn't it?
Yeah.
Everything's about choice.
Everything's about choice.
I choose to follow Christ. It's my choice. Why?
Or I choose not to.
Or I choose not to.
Yeah.
It's the opposite.
It's the opposite. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's freedom of choice.
Yeah.
God doesn't force you to believe in Him.
Yeah.
What would be the point of that?
Yeah.
Imagine you had you're going to marry a woman and you're forcing her to love you.
Yes.
What kind of relationship is that?
Exactly. You know, a prenup relationship.
Yeah. Well, there's many of those, aren't there?
There's many of those.
Yeah.
I wonder if this would run true for this conversation right now that we're having, but surrounding the subject of choice and the relevance of speaking about decisions that we make and pathways that we take.
Yeah.
God gave Abraham and Sarah a choice. Sorry, not necessarily a choice. Well, yeah. Believe in my miracle that I can perform.
You're talking about the childbirth.
The childbirth.
Yeah.
And rather than believe in that and wait, they decided to take it upon themselves.
Yeah. Egyptian. There you go.
But praise be to God that He didn't nullify that by getting rid of Ishmael. He allowed Ishmael to be born. But the miracle child still had to come. And that child, as we know, was Isaac. And in the lineage of Isaac comes many more miracles down to Christ. In the lineage of Ishmael is what I would say man's doings, not miracles no more. This is man's choice. This pathway, Ishmael's pathway, is I'm going to take it upon myself and sleep with the maidservant. I'm not going to wait for God's miracle. Isaac's route is, no, I'm barren, but I trust that God's going to deliver. I cannot have children. I'm going to trust that God's going to produce.
But Sarah didn't believe it, did she? Because she's in her mind, and God told you.
She giggled,
she didn't voice it, but He said, I hear. She didn't say anything.
Yeah.
But God heard what she said in her
wow.
mind.
Wow. So faith
The doubt,
and belief,
yeah.
they have to go hand in hand, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
This is powerful. So you've definitely left a legacy for sure. And there's more untold stories I know that are to come.
Gosh. Yeah.
If Jesus reviewed your work, what would you hope he says?
I know. I hope. I don't know. I don't think my hope might match the.
He might have told you already.
Yeah, but you see,
I'm proud of you.
But thank you. But we've already been judged because we're not going to be judged like that.
Yeah.
Because we're saved. We've accepted the finished work of Christ on the cross. We're saved.
Right.
So our judgment is not. It's not a judgment of sin, because we're covered by Jesus' righteousness. So we have no righteousness.
That's right. We don't.
We don't. So we don't have that judgment in there. But going back to your specific question, what would you say? I would love him to say,
What would you
"Well
want-
done,
yeah.
my good and faithful servant."
Yeah, yeah.
You know,
It
that's
does,
what I'd
man.
love to
That's
hear.
what
I
you wanna
mean,
hear.
that's what I want to hear. You know,
Yeah.
so but I don't know. I can't possibly put my mind in what he would say. I don't know. Do you know what I mean? But
Mm.
obviously, we try to do. But so we never get tired of doing good works.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, don't get weary
And whatever you do, work as though you're working for the Lord.
for the Lord. Now,
And I believe that's
that's the
what-
challenge, isn't it?
that
When
is
I'm
the
doing what I do, yes, but when I'm working for the government, then that's different.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
that, but we're always reminded that
But maybe the principles are still
they
to
have
be
to be.
applied.
Yeah,
How you
yeah,
conduct
yeah.
yourself with people
Oh
and
yes,
others,
yes,
and
yes,
you know.
100%. Yeah, yeah.
So
And so,
I mean, I definitely, like I said, I definitely see that in your line of work, and I was just blown away, and I think you're called naturally to be a storyteller, in the same way that people say that I'm called to speak.
yeah, I
I'm
think
a
you did a good
speaker.
job. Yeah. Yeah.
And we do these things without effort, without getting paid. I always say to
Sometimes like that,
somebody,
yeah.
if you want to know what your gifting is, find that thing that you're happy to do without getting money.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
And that's the thing. So when you get money for it in the end, it's just a bonus.
Absolutely.
It's just a bonus, man.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Imagine how the footballers feel.
Well,
'Cause-
growing up, that was my main thing with sports.
Mm,
I was an excellent all-around sportsman. Everything I touched, I could play really to a high level.
really?
Yeah. Football, rugby, cricket, and athletics.
Oh,
that was
wow.
all I think.
You're all rounder, gifted all round.
Yeah. That was
You're brilliant, brilliant. For those that don't know, you're a brilliant musician as well.
Well, I don't know if I'd call myself a brilliant musician, but yeah, you know what? I've got gifts in all these areas, and I just think about it sometimes, and that's why you have to remember that these are gifts. You didn't earn them.
Okay.
The moment we start thinking about our gifts as something that
They belong to others.
they belong to God,
Okay, yes.
and we have to be a steward of those things, of those
Yeah.
gifts, to do things, good works. So when we start believing in our own abilities and stuff, remember, it's no coincidence that the Bible used talents. Remember talents when they measured
Yeah,
it.
yeah,
Remember
yeah,
the proverb
yeah.
of talents, right?
Yes.
Well, what are our skills and gifts called? Talents,
Yes.
because they can be spent.
Right.
But how you spend them. You see, so there's that correlation between the two things. Because these kind of things I just pick up because I love words and I investigate words.
Mm.
I always have. I remember reading dictionaries when I was a kid.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
And Malcolm X read dictionaries in the prison, from beginning to the end and back again.
That's why the man was so articulate.
Come on,
Yeah.
So I always encourage young people. What is it? The word, right? Words. In the beginning was the word.
Mm.
Yeah.
Word became.
Yeah. So, however you look at it, however you look at words are powerful. Narratives are powerful.
Absolutely. Closing question. If the untold story is restored, what changes?
So then I have to come back and say, which untold story are you referring to?
The untold stories that you share.
If they are
restored,
right,
what do you feel would change?
People's mindsets, 100%. We've seen that. We've got testimony for that.
Absolutely.
People of all types. So, but it's all about how you receive the information. Do you receive it as a threat, or do you receive it as something that can reconcile people? So, okay, so the message we're saying ostensibly to Black people is to build them up and to give them confidence and to like, hey, this is your story, not the one that's been told here.
Yeah.
But then to other people who don't understand us, who believe in this false narrative also. In fact, everybody believes in the false narrative. Don't they? Doesn't matter what color you are. You're all being fed the same information.
Yeah.
But for others, it might be, well, like I told you about the two white ladies that were in Nottingham in the theatre. We didn't know.
That was their words.
We didn't know. And, that's touched me so deeply because it just shows me how manipulation of people is wicked.
Yeah.
It's so evil.
And I think that's why God is so patient with us,
100%.
Because he knows that a lot of people didn't know. Remember he said on the cross, Father, forgive them for they not know.
Yeah, that's right.
They not know what they're doing. And in a way, we got to pick up that same Christ-like strength, when we look around and see the atrocities that we endure. and to not let the devil consume our heart with bitterness,
Oh, yeah,
anger,
yeah.
and hate, because that's
But
his strategy.
but yeah, I know you're saying they never knew, and it's true. That's very important. But the Bible says, let him have ears, let him hear,
Yeah,
and eyes, let him see.
true.
And sometimes we present these things to people, and it's not that they don't see; they refuse.
Yeah,
No, that is
that's the
the
next level now.
wickedness. That's the next level.
Yeah,
You know, where you refuse to see what's right in front of you.
yeah. No, I don't want to know.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm not going to receive that.
Yeah, yeah.
Just like the Pharisees were, what are they doing? This Jesus producing all these miracles,
Yeah,
and yet we have to plan carefully because soon everybody will believe what he's doing. We have to kill this man.
yeah.
That's
Madness, isn't it?
come on. What kind of heart is that?
Yeah, yeah.
You know.
Maybe it's a hardened heart.
Well, it definitely is.
You know?
There's no question about that.
Because,
But it's
yeah.
next level. It's another level.
Yeah,
Because when you see something, what is it that prevents you from seeing the truth? Why would you even want to see anything else?
yeah, exactly.
You know?
But some people like living the lie, Kareem.
Of course they do.
They prefer the lie than the truth because the truth is too uncomfortable for them.
People love the darkness. The Bible says that people like darkness.
People like darkness.
But Jesus says, what part has darkness with light?
Yeah.
What relationship is there? There's
Yeah.
none.
The two of them, it can't.
You can't live in
they can't
existence.
blend
Can't
together.
coexist.
The sun and the moon can't. Even though I have seen the sun and the moon
Well, the
through
moon
the same setting, but
the moon reflects the sun's
reflect
light.
the sun's light. So it's still one that's dominant than the other, isn't it?
Yeah. So so these parables and stuff. That's why I love Proverbs.
Yeah. I try to read one every day.
I know. I'm not.
It doesn't always happen, but
I mean, I read every day, but not Proverbs
Not
necessarily.
Proverbs, yeah.
That thing is, you just read line after line, and you say, yeah. You just have to hold your hand up. Everything it says is so wise.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
absolutely.
It's brilliant.
Kareem, it's been a pleasure having you on here.
No, pleasure of mine. I say, David.
Because anytime I speak to you, I always feel like I'm getting, some type of wisdom or something from above,
gosh, if only.
for sure. And you've definitely educated me beyond some of my school curriculums could have ever done.
Oh, yeah.
I've looked into stuff for myself. There's some stuff that I haven't purposefully as well.
Yes.
As I said to you before,
Yes.
I was a bit concerned about how it would shape me.
Like roots and stuff like that.
Yeah. But since becoming a bit maturer and knowing myself more, I know what I can receive and watch versus what I don't no longer choose to look at.
I think the same is true for me from learning this history from I'm 16, 17, 14, 15, 16, 17, and getting access to these books, which weren't easy to gain, back in the day,
Yeah, absolutely.
And then getting this information, it does change the way you think, but you might go too far one way before you come back when you rationalize everything. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I do.
Because you can make you feel,
Sorry, continue.
No, I'm just saying, when you discover this information, like you said before, your first thought is almost like, right, I'm going to get them.
Yeah.
I'm going to gain retribution.
Yeah.
But then after a while, when you have wisdom, you're able to balance this information more.
Absolutely.
And apply it better,
Absolutely, man. It's faith without works is dead, and same as knowledge. If you don't apply it.
Yep.
Kareem, I just want to show everyone this book that you've written. An Introduction to Africology, Volume 1, Spirit of Inquiry. Where can people find this if they're?
Well, it's not on Amazon just yet, but it will be very, very soon.
Okay.
And I'll give you all our sort of website and socials after, so you can attach it up there.
Excellent.
You can order it from us directly.
I'm really grateful for your copy.
Oh yeah, you're welcome. Man.
Personally, to me,
yeah,
might have to ask you to sign it.
Yes. No worries, man.
And have you got any upcoming plays or anything?
Well, we're supposed to be touring Black Wall Street this year.
Yes, that is this year.
Yeah. So
that's in the summertime.
Yeah, it should kick off in July and then run periodically up until Black History Month and that kind of thing.
Right. Okay. All right then.
We're going across the UK, hopefully.
All right.
God willing. Yeah.
Anyone can look at it. Are there any socials that people can find you on?
Yeah. Well, we've got all of the. We've got School of Africology and Facebook. We've got the We've got Voice of Black Folk on the Facebook as well.
Okay.
Those
So if I put some of those stuff
Yeah,
in the bio,
yeah.
people will be able to access your
Oh yeah,
your handles in that way.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I'm sure some people will personally like to ask you some stuff.
Oh
questions
yeah,
or
that'd be
whatever.
great. I always love questions. Yeah.
And not only that, I think above all, they'd love to come to see one of your shows.
Yes, well, just keep an eye out for Black Wall Street. You know, that's
Yeah.
the next one that you'll be
Definitely.
Yeah. It's a musical, so it's something in there for everybody. I think. You know.
Kareem, thank you so much again, man, and may
Pleasure,
God
David.
continue
Pleasure.
to keep using you,
Amen.
shining the truth of light for all to see.
Pleasure. Thank you.
You are a pleasure.
If today's episode was interesting to you in any way, then the biggest and freest way to support us is to hit follow, like, and subscribe. It would really mean a lot if you could share it with anybody that you know, just so that we can get our voice out there. Who knows if it will help someone who needs to hear it. Remember, everything is upside down.